My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 21 years old, and this story begins on the night of my high school graduation. My family's living room was crowded with balloons, gift bags, and laughter, but none of it was meant for me. My mom's smile wasn't warm. It was sharp, almost mocking, as she passed presents around the room. When the last box was opened and my hands were still empty, I realized this wasn't just an oversight. It was deliberate, and it changed everything. White right pointing backhand index before I tell you how it unfolded. Comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. The living room smelled like vanilla frosting and fried chicken, my mom's idea of a celebration dinner. Streamers sagged from the ceiling, a bit uneven, taped up by my younger brother who clearly didn't care if they looked sloppy. I sat on the old beige couch, smoothing my dress nervously, watching as my mom handed out brightly wrapped boxes to everyone but me. My sister, Melissa, tore into hers first, squealing as she pulled out a silver necklace with her initials engraved. My brother, Tyler, grinned wide when he unwrapped a brand new video game console. Even my cousin, who just happened to be visiting that weekend, got a brand new pair of wireless earbuds. Each gift was met with claps, laughter, and proud looks from my mom, like she was the star of the show. And then there was me, sitting with empty hands, forcing a polite smile, while my stomach knotted itself tighter with every ribbon torn. I told myself to be patient. Maybe my gift was hidden under the table, maybe she was saving the best for last. That's what I wanted to believe. But as the last package was opened, my mom leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, and gave me that smack. "Oh, Rachel," she said casually, "we missed you this time." The room laughed, not cruelly, more awkwardly, but I heard my aunt chuckle under her breath, trying to play along. My face felt hot, my ears ringing. I forced a laugh too, though it sounded shaky. Inside, my chest was on fire. Missed me? How do you forget your own daughter at her graduation party? Melissa leaned over, whispering with a grin, "Guess you didn't make the cut." Her words stung worse than my mom's smack. Tyler just shrugged, already busy plugging in his new console, completely oblivious to the tension. I tried to brush it off, but the silence around me felt heavy. Relatives avoided my eyes. One cousin fiddled with her phone, pretending she didn't notice my empty lap. Grandma cleared her throat like she might say something, but then pressed her lips shut. Nobody wanted to upset Mom. That was the unspoken rule in our house. Whatever she did, we went along with it. I stared at the cake on the counter, white frosting spelling out "Congrats Melissa and Tyler" in big blue letters. No mention of me at all. My name wasn't there. It was their celebration, not mine. I thought back to the week before, when I overheard my mom on the phone telling her friend, "Honestly, Rachel's not really going anywhere big. Melissa's got college lined up, Tyler sports, but Rachel? She's just there." At the time, I brushed it off, but now the words echoed in my head, cutting deeper than ever. I excused myself, slipping into the kitchen to get some water. My hands trembled as I filled the glass, the clink of ice cubes louder than the chatter in the living room. My reflection in the microwave caught my eye, red cheeks, watery eyes, and a smile that didn't look real. I told myself not to cry, not here, not in front of them. Then, footsteps. Grandma shuffled in, holding her cane, her brows furrowed with concern. "Rachel, honey, you okay?" she whispered softly. I nodded quickly, though my throat burned. "Yeah, I'm fine." She touched my arm gently. "I saw what happened. Don't let it break you. Some people don't see what they have until it's gone." Her words were kind, but they didn't erase the ache in my chest. Back in the living room, Mom was showing off Melissa's necklace to the neighbors, her voice dripping with pride. "She deserves it. She's going places." I slipped back into the couch, trying to make myself invisible. The laughter, the chatter, the flashing phones taking selfies, all of it blurred together. It was like I wasn't even in the room. But then something small happened that stuck with me. My little cousin, barely 8 years old, walked over holding a slice of cake. "You can have mine," she whispered, placing the plate in my lap before running back to her seat. The gesture was tiny, but it nearly broke me. Someone noticed. Someone cared, even if it wasn't the person I needed. The night dragged on. Gifts were compared, jokes were made, photos were snapped. I sat quietly, my smile plastered on like a mask. My mom never looked my way again. By the time people started leaving, my cheeks hurt from pretending. When the last guest hugged me goodbye, she whispered, "Congratulations, Rachel." I wanted to thank her, but the words stuck in my throat. Because the truth was, I didn't feel congratulated. I felt erased. Later, when the house emptied out and the living room was a mess of torn wrapping paper and cake crumbs, I helped clean up. Mom barely acknowledged me, humming to herself as she wiped the counter. At one point, she glanced at me and said, "Don't look so gloomy. Life's not about gifts, you know." I wanted to scream, "It's not about the gifts, it's about being seen." But I stayed quiet, stacking paper plates and forcing myself to breathe steady. As I went to bed that night, the sound of Tyler's new console beeping in the next room and Melissa giggling on the phone about her necklace, I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling. That party wasn't for me. It never was. And I realized something chilling. Maybe nothing in this house ever truly had been. The glow from Tyler's console slipped through the crack under my door, pulsing in faint flashes across the carpet. Every beep, every burst of laughter from my siblings on the other side of the wall, pressed into me like needles. My chest rose and fell unevenly, breaths shallow, eyes burning from holding back tears that begged to fall. I wanted to cry, but something in me resisted. Crying would have been easy. Too easy. So instead, I forced my lips into a smile, a strange, hollow thing that didn't belong on my face, and I whispered to myself, "You're fine. You're stronger than this." That lie became my lullaby. The next morning, sunlight streamed through my blinds, slicing the darkness into golden stripes. My pillow was damp from the tears I swore I wouldn't shed, and yet when I caught my reflection in the dresser mirror, I stretched that same practiced smile across my face. It was shaky, but it was there. I told myself it would shield me, a thin armor that might convince the world I wasn't breaking apart inside. Downstairs, the kitchen smelled like coffee and toast. Mom was already at the counter, scrolling through her phone with that distracted frown she wore more often than not. She didn't look up when I walked in. "There's cereal," she muttered, waving vaguely toward the pantry. Melissa sat at the table, laughing into her phone, necklace glinting proudly in the morning light. Tyler tapped away at his controller, his breakfast untouched beside him. "Morning," I said softly, my voice almost swallowed by their noise. Nobody answered. My smile stretched wider, my jaw aching as I poured cereal into a chipped bowl. I carried it to the table and sat down, forcing myself to hum as though I was content. It was then that Grandma shuffled in. She noticed me first. She always did. "Rachel," she said warmly, "did you sleep all right?" I nodded quickly. "Yeah, I'm good." My smile widened, but her eyes narrowed, searching. She knew. Somehow, she always knew when I was pretending. She didn't call me out, though. Instead, she patted my shoulder gently as she passed, whispering, "Keep your chin up, sweetheart." Her words lingered long after she left the room. Later that afternoon, I met my best friend, Lily, at the park. The grass was damp from last night's rain, and the air smelled faintly of earth and wildflowers. We sat on the swings, kicking at the ground, the chains creaking in rhythm. "You missed my calls," she said, nudging me. "Sorry. Busy night," I replied, forcing a laugh. She squinted at me. "Busy how?" I looked away, staring at the pond where ducks floated lazily. I didn't want to admit what happened. Saying it out loud felt like giving it more power. "Just family stuff," I muttered instead. Lily studied me for a moment before sighing. "You do that thing again," she said. "What thing?" "That fake smile. The one you wear when you don't want me to worry." I froze. My lips faltered, and the mask almost slipped. But then I tugged it back into place, insisting, "I'm fine, Lily. Really?" She didn't push, but the look in her eyes told me she didn't believe me. That night, back home, I caught myself in the mirror again. The girl staring back didn't look like me. She looked like someone trained to disappear, someone who survived by pretending she didn't feel the sting of being invisible. And yet the smile was there, carved onto her face like it belonged. Days blurred into weeks. Graduation pictures filled social media feeds. Friends posed with parents holding flowers, balloons, gifts. I scrolled through them late at night, the glow of my phone painting my room in cold blue light. Every photo was a reminder of what I didn't have. Still, I smiled in mine. In every selfie I posted, the corners of my lips were tightened up, my eyes wide and bright, hiding the storm inside. Comments poured in. "You look so happy." "Congrats, girl." "Love that smile." Each one was a strange mixture of comfort and pain. They believed the mask. They believed the lie. One evening, Melissa barged into my room, showing off yet another photo of her necklace. "Look, Rachel. Isn't it gorgeous? Mom says it's a family piece. She wanted me to have it because I'll actually use it." I smiled. "Yeah, it's nice." Inside, I screamed. Family piece? Why not me? Was I not family? But my lips never betrayed me. When she left, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at my hands. I realized the smile wasn't just a shield anymore. It had become a cage. Every time I wore it, I felt myself disappearing a little more, my real emotions slipping further away. Then something unexpected happened. One afternoon, while walking home from the library, I passed a group of kids playing tag. A little girl tripped and scraped her knee. She cried loudly, clutching her leg. Without thinking, I knelt down, helping her up. "You're okay," I said gently, brushing dirt from her skin. And when I smiled at her, it wasn't fake. It was real. Her sobs quieted. She sniffled, then grinned back at me through her tears. That moment hit me like lightning. A smile could heal. It could comfort, but only if it was real. That night, lying in bed again, I thought about that girl. Maybe my smile didn't have to be a mask forever. Maybe one day it could mean something again. But not yet. Not in this house. For now, it was still my shield. As I closed my eyes, the faint hum of Tyler's console filled the air once more. Melissa laughed down the hall. Mom's voice carried from the kitchen, sharp and commanding. And me? I smiled into the dark, silent tears soaking my pillow. A smile instead of tears. That was how I survived. The ceiling above me blurred as I blinked through the tears, my lips still stretched into that practiced curve. My pillow was damp, my heart heavy, but my mind refused to rest. Instead, it churned with the same unrelenting thought. If they couldn't see me, I'd make them see what I could do. That night, between sobs and silence, I made myself a promise. If I couldn't win their love, I'd earn their respect. The next morning, before anyone else stared, I slipped quietly into the kitchen. The house smelled faintly of yesterday's coffee and the sharp tang of cleaning spray. I boiled water, toasted bread, laid out breakfast plates. By the time Mom wandered in, robe trailing behind her, I was already rinsing dishes. She paused for a moment, eyebrows raised, then muttered, Didn't think you were up this early." I smiled. Just thought I'd help. She gave a small shrug, poured herself coffee, and scrolled through her phone. Not a thank you. Not even a glance. Still, I kept my smile. At school, I pawed myself into assignments. While others doodled in margins or whispered in class, I sat rigid at my desk, pencil flying across paper, determined to have the sharpest answers, the cleanest notes. Teachers praised my work ethic, patting my shoulder with approving smiles. But when I brought home straight A's, waving the report card like proof of my worth, Mom only glanced at it. "Good. That's what you're supposed to do," she said, returning to her screen. The word stung, but I didn't let my smile falter. Week after week, I found ways to carry weight no one asked me to. I folded laundry until my fingers smelled like fabric softener. I vacuumed until the carpet lines were neat and perfect. I even scrubbed the bathroom tiles until they gleamed. Once, Grandma caught me on my knees, brush in hand, sweat dripping into my eyes. She knelt beside me, gently tugging the brush away. "You don't need to do this, Rachel," she whispered. I forced a grin. "I want to." Her eyes softened, but she let me keep going. Late nights became my ritual. While Melissa streamed shows in her room and Tyler shouted into his headset at friends online, I sat hunched over textbooks, highlighters staining my fingers. Sometimes I'd glance at the clock and realize hours had slipped away, the world outside dark and silent. My lamp cast a pale glow on the pages, my own shadow stretching long across the wall. I told myself that one day, all this invisible work would matter. But inside the house, it never did. One Friday evening, Mom walked in with shopping bags. She set a new sweater in front of Melissa, beaming. "Saw this and thought of you." She handed Tyler a gift card, ruffling his hair. Then she glanced at me. "Rachel, did you finish cleaning the living room?" I nodded. "Good, thanks." No sweater, no gift card, just a nod of acknowledgement for work already expected. I swallowed hard, lips curving into that same smile. Inside, something cracked. Lily noticed the exhaustion first. During study hall, she nudged my arm. "You look dead. Do you even sleep anymore?" "I'm fine," I lied automatically, tugging my hoodie tighter. She rolled her eyes. "You're doing way too much. No one's even noticing, Rachel." Her words hit like an arrow, but I shook them off. "They'll notice eventually." She leaned closer, whispering, "And if they don't?" I didn't answer, because deep down, I was terrified she was right. One Sunday afternoon, I overheard Mom talking to a neighbor in the driveway. I paused by the window, listening. "Melissa's been doing so well," she bragged, "and Tyler's got such a knack for tech. I don't know where they get their drive." She laughed lightly, never mentioning me. I backed away from the window, pressing my hand to my chest. My heart pounded, but my smile still clung to my lips like a stubborn scar. That night, I sat at my desk, homework scattered around me, and whispered into the stillness, "One day, you'll see me." My voice trembled, but the conviction in my chest burned hotter than the ache in my throat. I poured myself into everything, volunteering at the library, tutoring classmates, joining clubs at school. Anywhere I thought someone might notice me, I pushed harder, worked longer, smiled brighter. The librarians praised my dedication. Teachers gave me certificates. Friends leaned on me for help. But at home, silence. One evening, after finishing the dishes, I found Melissa sprawled across the couch, scrolling her phone. Tyler lounged nearby, game controller in hand. "Hey, can someone help me fold the laundry?" I asked carefully. Melissa groaned. "You're already good at it. Just do it." Tyler didn't even look up. I carried the heavy basket to my room alone, folded every shirt, every sock, my hands trembling with quiet fury. As I stacked the last pile neatly on the bed, my reflection in the mirror caught my eye again. That smile was there, but it looked strange, tighter, sharper, almost defiant. I realized then that my smile wasn't just for them anymore. It was for me, a challenge, a dare to myself to keep going, even when it felt like I was invisible. But invisibility has weight. Late one night, exhaustion finally broke through. My pen slipped from my fingers, clattering onto the desk. My head fell into my arms, tears soaking the ink-stained pages. For once, I didn't force the smile. For once, I let the tears come, hot and heavy, shaking my shoulders. The house was silent except for my sobs. And in that silence, I asked the question I had buried for so long, what if no amount of work will ever make them see me? The answer didn't come. Only the sound of my own breathing, ragged and raw, filling the lonely room. The night ended in silence, my tears drying stiff against my skin. But when morning light crept across my room, something inside me had shifted. I couldn't keep clawing at scraps of recognition that never came. If my efforts went unseen, then maybe I needed to create something so undeniable, so unshakable, that even they couldn't look past it. Not just grades or clean floors, something real, something lasting. That thought pulsed in my chest as I carried my backpack to school, the straps digging into my shoulders. Between classes, I found myself sketching in the margins of my notebook. Shapes, words, little bursts of creativity I hadn't allowed myself before. By lunch, the idea formed fully. I would make them a gift. Not bought with money, not wrapped in shiny paper, but built with my hands, carved from my heart. A gift so personal they couldn't ignore it. That afternoon, while Melissa and Tyler argued over the remote and Mom scrolled through her phone, I slipped away to my room with a notebook in hand. I wrote down pieces of memories, scraps of conversations, fragments of laughter from the rare moments we had shared. Then I added sketches of the house, of Grandma in her garden, of the oak tree out front where we used to play. Hours passed, pencil scraping against paper, until my wrist ached. But when I looked down, I saw the beginnings of something beautiful, a storybook of our family, told through my eyes. For weeks, I poured myself into it. Every night after homework, I spread my papers across the bed, taping, coloring, writing captions in my neatest handwriting. I drew Melissa giggling in her cap and gown, Tyler grinning with a soccer ball tucked under his arm, Mom stirring a pot in the kitchen. I even drew Grandma with her kind smile, hands cupping roses. Some pages were smudged from tears that fell while I worked, but I let them stay. They were part of it, proof that it was real. One Saturday, Lily caught me at the library, papers spilling from my folder. "What's all this?" she asked, gathering loose sketches before the wind stole them. "Something for my family," I said softly. She studied the drawings, eyes widening. "Rachel, this is incredible. You're making a book." "Not just a book. A gift. Something they'll never forget." Lily looked at me for a long moment, then whispered, "They'd be crazy not to treasure this." Her words lit a tiny spark of hope inside me. By the time my project was complete, the book was thick, each page a mix of drawings, short poems, little stories. I even decorated the cover with pressed flowers from Grandma's garden, sealed under clear tape. It was fragile, imperfect, but it was mine, and it carried every ounce of love I had ever longed to give and receive. The day I decided to reveal it, I felt my stomach twist with nerves. It was Tyler's birthday, the living room buzzing with relatives, laughter spilling through the halls. Wrapped gifts towered on the table, shiny boxes, gift cards, envelopes with money tucked inside. I held my handmade book against my chest, palms damp, waiting for the right moment. When Tyler tore through his presents, paper flying, everyone cheered. Melissa squealed over her sweater. Mom gushed over the fancy gadget someone had brought. And then, as the noise settled, I stepped forward. I made something," I said, my voice trembling. The room quieted. Dozens of eyes landed on me, some curious, some indifferent. My hands shook as I placed the book on the table. "It's for all of us. A memory book." Melissa leaned forward, flipping the cover. Her brows lifted as she saw the first drawing. Grandma gasped softly, covering her mouth with one hand. One by one, the pages turned. Tyler laughed at his cartoon self kicking a ball. Aunt Clara wiped her eyes at a sketch of the family reunion from years ago. Even Mom leaned closer, tracing her fingers over the page where I had written, "Our home isn't perfect, but it's ours." For the first time, the room was quiet not because I had faded into the background, but because every single person was focused on me. "This is beautiful," Grandma whispered, pulling me into a hug. Tyler grinned. "I look cooler in your drawings than in real life." Melissa muttered, "Wow, I didn't know you could even draw." But Mom said nothing. She closed the book slowly, her expression unreadable. then stood to clear plates from the table. The cheers faded, conversations resumed, and just like that, my moment was gone. I stood frozen, heart pounding, the smile stretched across my face until it ached. Everyone had seen it. They had praised it. But the one person I had wanted most to notice had walked away. Later that night, I found the book sitting on the counter, half buried under wrapping paper. I lifted it gently, brushing off crumbs, and carried it back to my room. For a moment, I considered tearing it apart, shredding the pages that had cost me weeks of my heart. But then I stopped. Because as much as it hurt, I realized something. This gift wasn't wasted. Maybe Mom couldn't see it, maybe she wouldn't ever. But the others had. Grandma's tears, Tyler's grin, the relatives' quiet admiration. They were real. And more than that, I had proven something to myself. I could create beauty out of pain. I could give love even when I wasn't given any in return. I sat on the edge of my bed, running my fingers across the cover, whispering to the empty room, "They can't match this. No one can." The thought didn't erase the ache, but it planted a seed of strength. A reminder that even if the world turned away, I still carried something inside me that couldn't be ignored forever. For the first time in a long time, my smile didn't feel like a mask. It felt like a quiet rebellion. The book rested on my lap, heavy with the weight of every line I had drawn, every word I had carved into its pages. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to prove myself to them anymore. I had already done it. The proof was here in my hands. They might have ignored it, dismissed it, even forgotten it by morning, but deep down I knew it was beyond anything they could ever create for me. And that was enough. That quiet realization was the beginning of my revenge. Not the loud, bitter kind, but the kind that grew slowly, invisibly, until it became freedom. The next morning, when Mom called from the kitchen for someone to clean the dishes left from the party, I didn't rush down. I sat at my desk, the memory book open beside me, sketching something new. My pencil moved quickly, lines sharp, shading bold. The sound of my name being called again reached me, sharper this time, but I didn't move. By the third call, Melissa stomped into my room, arms crossed. Mom said to clean the kitchen. "She's waiting." I looked up at her, calm. "Then you should help." Her eyes widened, as if I had spoken in another language. "What did you just say?" "You heard me," I said, returning to my drawing. She scoffed, muttered something under her breath, and left. For once, I didn't care. It wasn't defiance for the sake of rebellion. It was simply the choice not to carry the weight they piled on me anymore. Every time I had given in, every time I had swallowed my hurt and done what was asked, I had chained myself tighter. But now, piece by piece, I felt those chains slipping off. At school, the change was subtle, but people noticed. I no longer kept my head down in hallways or rushed past the gossiping groups. I walked slower, shoulders back, a small, unshakable calm wrapping around me. Lily was the first to comment. "You're different lately," she said as we sat under the oak tree during lunch. "How so?" "You're not waiting anymore. For approval, I mean. You look like you already have it." I smiled faintly, brushing crumbs from my lap. "Maybe I do. From myself." She studied me, then grinned. "Whatever it is, don't lose it. It looks good on you." Those words stayed with me, echoing later that evening when Melissa complained loudly about having to wash dishes alone, and Mom muttered about my attitude. Normally, the words would have paced me, twisting until I felt guilty enough to cave. But now, I let them hang in the air and fade. My silence was my shield, and in it, there was power. But freedom wasn't just refusing chores or ignoring complaints. It was deeper. It was choosing where to place my time, my effort, my heart. I spent evenings at the library, filling sketchbooks instead of scrubbing floors. I stayed after school to help the art teacher organize supplies, earning quiet praise I had never thought to hear. One day, Mr. Allen, the art teacher, leaned over my shoulder as I painted. "Rachel, You have something rare, he said softly. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. The words sank into me like sunlight after a long winter. I didn't tell my family about the compliments or the small contest I entered with my work. I didn't expect them to care. Instead, I carried those moments like secret treasures, tiny victories no one could steal. That was my revenge, thriving quietly while they remained blind to the strength they had forced me to find. It wasn't about making them jealous. It was about no longer needing them to validate my worth. One evening, Grandma visited, her gentle eyes searching mine as we sat alone in the living room. I saw your book again, she said. It's extraordinary, Rachel. You gave us all a gift we'll never forget. I looked down, embarrassed. Most of them didn't really care. She touched my hand, her voice steady. That doesn't matter. They may not understand now, but someday they will. And even if they never do, you will always know what you're capable of. Her words were like a balm. Quiet, healing, undeniable. After she left, I held on to that truth, and I began noticing small shifts around me. Melissa's sarcastic remarks grew sharper, as if she couldn't stand the fact that I no longer rose to her bait. Tyler watched me curiously, sometimes asking, "Why don't you help anymore?" And I would just shrug, offering no explanation. Even Mom seemed unsettled, her instructions more clipped, her sighs more frequent. But instead of pulling me back into their cycle, it only confirmed what I had discovered. They thrived on my compliance, my silence in service of them. Now, my silence served me. Freedom wasn't loud. It was walking past the laundry basket without guilt. It was saying no without trembling. It was drawing until midnight without worrying about who needed what from me. My quiet revenge was simple. I refused to let their blindness dictate my life. One afternoon, as I packed my sketchbook into my bag, Melissa sneered, "What are you even doing with all that drawing? You think it matters?" I met her gaze for the first time in years, steady and calm. "It matters to me." She blinked, thrown off, and for once had no quick comeback. That night, lying in bed, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: lightness. The ache was still there, yes, but it no longer defined me. My freedom wasn't something they had given, and so it wasn't something they could take. The memory book still sat on my shelf, its pressed flowers fading with time. But I didn't need to open it anymore to remind myself of what I had done. It was proof enough that even in the deepest neglect, I had found a way to create beauty. And that was the kind of revenge no one could erase, turning the silence that gave me into a freedom they could never touch.